Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. This video is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own research, make your own decisions. All right, guys, welcome back. So yes, I am going to be addressing this situation. I know a lot of people are not going to be thrilled with that, and I understand why. You know, Bobby, you're just playing into this whole thing, and this is just going to give him more attention. I get that point of view. There is a lot of truth to that. However, I'm not looking at this as a video about Scott specifically. This is more so about numerous different things that have been kind of building up within the space for months at this point that predated me ever getting back on Twitter. And if they were never addressed openly, frustration and general hostility was just going to continue to build. Okay. And if I were to come out today and give the most glowing endorsement of Scott, most of the people that view him a certain way aren't going to care. They're going to say, I don't give a shit what Bobby thinks. It's not changing my opinion. And so everybody will come to their own general position and take on this. But this is more so big picture, just about numerous different things and the general precedent, because I think that's the big thing for a lot of people. And I don't speak for everybody. I speak for myself. That's it. But I do think that the precedent itself was a big frustration. And I 100% understand that. This will be the fairest, most reasonable take that I can offer. Okay. And then after that, this is done. Okay. And in my defense, I've spent almost no time in the last 3 years scrutinizing certain projects or criticizing certain projects or founders. I spent less than 1% of my time on here doing that. Okay. For a variety of different reasons. And if you were to put, and I really want to make this point first, if you were to put anybody else in his position, you take the exact same details and the same circumstances with the history over the last 6 months and these other failed projects. If you were to put anybody else, just take him out and put somebody else in with that same track record and the same details, the reaction is going to be very similar from a lot of people. And it's hard to fault somebody for saying, this is too much and too short of a time period for me. Okay. If other people see it differently, that's perfectly fine. It's always going to be that way. But it's not a crazy position to say there's been too many projects in too short of a time period, and I'm not going to like openly endorse this. And that's that. I do think there is some point, though, where it is time to like say your piece and move on. Right. And for me, I've said my piece. So that's that. Because let's just say, speaking hypothetically, that Scott decides to stick around and continue to move everything with the project forward himself. It's like every single day, 7 days a week, are we all just going to be like on social media making a big stink about it? I don't think that's the most constructive thing in the world to do. And at some point, it is time to kind of like just move the conversation forward. However, for the people who were just simply saying, this is too much, and this is too much, I fully understand that. I haven't seen another scenario in the 3 years that I've been on here where there was this many projects with one person in this short of a time period. I tried to think of other examples and I couldn't. It's like this was, and I wouldn't expect, if I was in his, I would have expected to have been shut down 2 or 3 projects before. I can't say definitively because it's a hypothetical. And I think a lot of other people feel the same. They say, if I was in that position, I don't know if I would be granted the same benefit of the doubt over and over and over again. Now, whether, again, it's a hypothetical, but it's the precedent that was an issue for a lot of people. So I think multiple things can be true. I think that it's 100% justified why people had concerns about all this. And in that same breath, I can want to see big picture Scott do well and succeed just as a person, which is the same thing I would want for any of you. Even the people who call me an idiot on a regular basis in my comments. Some of the people that have criticized me the most in my comments, I will go back a week later, a month later, 2 months later, just to try to reconnect and, have some common ground. But I get criticized all the time too, okay? And I've never taken any money from anybody, never been a part of any projects, and I've never really changed my position. Tons of people know all my addresses, and I've shown everything I've done on here. So, and I still get criticized all the time. It comes with the territory. When money is involved, like it is in this space, when money becomes involved, there is a different level of scrutiny. That's always going to be the case, not because I want it to be the case, just because that's the way that it is. When people's money is on the line, and when money is involved, it's a different conversation. There is a different level of scrutiny, and that should be expected. But the part with this is that I think it was too much and too short of a time period for some people. You can't just tell people, okay, now it's going to be different. Now I'm going to be different, and you should just accept that and forget about everything that just happened. That's not the way this works. It's like the only reason why I have any degree of credibility whatsoever, and I still get criticized all the time, but the only reason why I have any degree of credibility is because of all those things I just listed off. I've never really changed my position. I've always been around in the hardest times. I've shown everything that I've done. And, I'm not out here tying myself to this and that and the third project or whatever. I may very well openly talk about things that I buy myself, just explaining my reasoning because I show everything that I do, but that's it. But if I were to do all these things, if I were to launch token after token after token in a short period of time, I would fully expect to hear all the criticism in the world. All right. Okay. So I think that if there would have been a 12-month period with no issues, no drama, no noise, no projects, just a 12-month period of just being one of the guys, just being one of the community members, I think this would have been received differently by a lot of people. And maybe not everybody, but I do think it would have been received differently from a lot of people, because it would have said, okay, yeah, this happened a year and a half ago. Obviously, it doesn't look great. That being said, there hasn't been any issues with him over the last year. No real drama, no real problems. People can change. Hopefully this works out. Doesn't mean that I have to openly endorse it and promote it, but hopefully this works. I think people would have had a different point of view. And I do think, like, my big hope for Scott is like there be a redemption arc period. But you're not just going to tell people that they should feel differently, they should have a different opinion about you, and then them just say, okay, all right, now I think entirely different. That's not the way this works. It's like, I know there are people that don't like me. I'm very well aware of this, and I understand why. It's because the way that I come off, how I communicate, my tone, my delivery. I can come off like a prick. I get it. So when people give me feedback like that, it's like, I'm not surprised. I don't tell them, oh, you're wrong for feeling that way, because I know there are things that I do and say that are a turnoff to other people. It's just the way that I am. And it'd be too hard to consciously, try to change what I'm doing just to accommodate some people. But my hope for Scott is that there is a moment in the future, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, where I think that over time you can change people's perception of you through your actions and your words. But just so we're very clear, the reason why a lot of people view Scott the way they do today is because of his actions and his words. It's the same reason why people view you the way they do, or me the way they do. It's because of our actions and our words. And so if the goal, big picture, is to have people, view him or view you separately, it's like that comes through your own actions and words. And I would love to see in like 3 or 4 years from now, a redemption arc, a Scott Summers redemption arc video feature film by NDF. That would be great. I'm being sincere. I would really love to see that. I would really love to be like, that's how this all plays out. And I can want and hope the best for Scott, big picture, while in the present moment saying this is too much in too short of a time period. For me, it's a free world. It's an open platform. You can launch 1 million tokens if you want to, right? You can launch 1 million tokens if you want to. Other people don't have to support it, but they also, because money is involved here, and because of the details in this situation, they have every right to raise concern. And if you can't raise concern in this situation, then you just can't raise concern. Like if you can't raise concern, numerous failed projects, 6-month time frame, and then another one launches, which I hope the best for the project. Okay. And there's a lot of other people that support the project. But if you can't raise concern in that situation, then it's just not allowed. Now, to that point, raising concern does have like a beginning and an end. Because if Scott decides to like stick around, I don't know if I've already said this, but if Scott decides to stick around and like try to push everything forward, it's just like at some point it's like, say your piece. And if you want to elaborate and continue to say your piece, that's fine. But at some point, it is time to move on. And blocking and muting just becomes the best course of action, at least in my opinion. Again, I don't speak for everybody. And people will make their own decisions irrespective of what I say. So, and another thing too, is that I personally saw what I believe, I think numerous other ICP projects, even ones that have been through SNS, got more scrutiny than this. Think back to the bear market. Think back of a select few projects that just caught tons of shit from so many different people. I would argue that there's numerous other ICP projects that don't have this history that caught tons of more FUD. Not saying it's, that makes anything okay or this and that and the third. It's just, let's put this in perspective. So speaking for myself, I can think that this is just crazy as far as the general precedent. I can think it's crazy and think that it's probably not a great thing as far as a precedent, while simultaneously hoping the best for Scott and wanting to see him do well. When I say I don't think that launching another thing is the solution. If the goal is to kind of, if the goal is kind of like in the redemption arc type thing, it's like, I don't think that right now launching another thing was the solution. I think the solution was just to be one of the guys and rebuild trust. You might have done that, or Scott might have done that with some people effectively, but it's like everybody's not the same. Again, I could change my position today and it won't make a damn bit of difference with tons of other people. So a lot of this predated me. I just want to overemphasize that. And I just don't like being in this position. Okay. Also, I would have likely never said anything. And when I got back on Twitter, and I should have made this point earlier, I got a lot of shit from different people, numerous different people, about not addressing the Scott situation. And I have all these DMs, and I could show them if I need to, and I'll just block out the names. But I caught a decent amount of shit for not addressing the Scott situation. In my general position, I told them the same thing I told Scott. He wasn't pushing FUD at the bottom of the bear market. He wasn't scaring subscribers of mine out. And he may have been doing other dumb shit, depending on the details. I tried to ignore that whole time period as much as possible, but he may have been doing other dumb shit, but he wasn't scaring subscribers of mine out at the bottom. And so I had to draw the line somewhere, and that's where I drew the line. And that's what I told everybody. And that was my position. And I was not going to say anything about Scott. That being said, I did also have a very low tolerance for any stupid shit. And so when he made that post about me, which I viewed it as engagement farming, I said, okay, that's it. I was cool letting it all go, but that's it. And in reality, all I've really done, I've made 2 comments on 2 different posts. And I don't take into consideration, and I will do this in the future, that some of my posts or just my basic comments might get a lot of reach. I don't think about stuff like this. But I caught a lot of shit. And so, but when Scott did that post that was directed at me, and I viewed it as engagement farming, I was like, okay, that's it. Because within, and this is important, within any group of people, whether it's crypto, whether it's a crypto community, whether it's a sub community, whether it's your family, your work environment, it doesn't matter. Within any group of people, there is a general threshold and a tolerance for certain shit, right? Fair enough? And so if you cross that threshold, and if you kind of go beyond people's tolerance, they start to say things about it. This would happen in your family. This would happen at work. This would happen anywhere. And it's just kind of gone above the tolerance level for a lot of people. And for me personally, that post was like, okay, that's it. I'm cool letting it go as long as there's no dumb shit. And some people might view that as petty, and to some degree that might be petty of me. But I meant everything that I've said. And I think I'm 100% justified. And I think other people are justified in raising concern and saying this is a bad precedent. If this isn't a bad precedent, what is? How many projects does it need to be? 10? I'm not saying that people can't do it. That's not what I'm saying. Obviously, anybody can do it. Anybody can launch 1 million projects if they want to, 1 million different tokens. All I'm saying is that there should have been expected. This response should have been expected, I think. And I think a lot of people that wanted to kind of just stay out of it, it's like they were like, all right, this has gone too far. But guys, I've done some really terrible things in my life. And if people viewed me, if the standing impression that people had of me was based on all the worst things I've done in my life, then I would never be given an opportunity for anything. Okay? I've probably done much worse things than Scott, in all reality. Years past, years and years ago. And so I fully believe people can change. And again, I want to see things work out with Scott. Right now, February 2024 is not the time where people are just going to do a 180-degree pivot on Scott. Some people will, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I have people that I like and respect that are like pro Scott, and that's fine. But it's like, you can't just tell people to just change their viewpoint on something. There hasn't been enough time that's passed. People need to see a longer, extended period of time that has passed without any shit happening before they're going to change their opinion. And some may never change their opinion. But I do believe that people can change. I do believe that, I believe that people should have the ability to redeem themselves. Okay. And I don't like, cancel culture. And, but at the same time, I'm a big proponent of personal responsibility. And it's like the way people view you are based on your actions and your words. If I had done everything with this channel drastically differently up until this point, people would view me differently because my words and my actions were different. And if I ever fuck up, if I ever do something really dumb, there's going to be a bunch of people ready to dig a grave and throw me in it. There's a decent amount of people that don't like that I have this platform. And so I'm very well aware of that. Scott can do whatever he wants to do on his end. He's his own person. But if the ICP thesis is correct over a long enough time frame, it's like everybody's going to be using this. ICP is going to be a part of everything over a long enough time frame. So leaving, in my opinion, will only result in inevitably coming back. That's why I don't factor in community when it comes to layer one enterprise infrastructure type plays. But you do whatever you want to do. Do whatever makes sense for you. Not financial advice, do your own research. But it is apparent, though, that there will be more scrutiny on projects in the space. That didn't just start, that's been going on, that was happening in the bear market. And I, to my credit, have contributed very little to that. Again, if you were to create a list of everybody in the ICP space and rank them by the amount of scrutiny they put on projects, I would be at the bottom. As a whole, if you're looking at the whole body of work. But once money becomes involved, there is a different level of scrutiny. And it's understandable why, right? And some of these people, this is another important point. Some of these people in the ecosystem don't have 10,000 ICP. They don't have 5,000 ICP. They're trying to get to 10. They're trying to get to 50 or 20 or 100. So something with some asset that's like, a few ICP, 5 ICP, 10 ICP, something like that. And again, everybody's responsible for their own decisions, man. It's just like, it's the precedent. It's the precedent. That's what it is. Okay. But I don't think that dogpiling on somebody every day, day after day, is a good thing either. And I have no intention of doing that. And I've, for the most part, said what I had to say, and anything else that I had to say, I said in this video. So, this is it for me, and I'm moving on. And it will have to get very bad with a future situation for me to say anything publicly about it, because I don't like being in this position. And I don't like being in this position. But I do just want to reference a poll that Andrew put out 19 hours ago, probably a day ago now. Is the ICP community healthier than it was a year ago? Healthier it was a year ago. 69% said yes, 400 plus votes. Not a huge amount, but it's a good sample size for the active people in the ICP space, in my opinion. I think it's a good sample size. And again, I will buy the video, the NFT video from NDF, the Scott Summers redemption arc video. I will buy that video in the future. Hopefully it gets made. Hopefully there is a reason to make it, but people are not just going to change their opinion overnight. Over time, many will, but not overnight. And in a relative, it's essentially overnight, okay, when you're talking about this situation specifically. If only a month has passed or 2 months have passed or whatever, if it's in a 6-month window, it's just too tight. It's too much in too small of a time period. There hasn't been enough time that has passed and enough positive action to change enough people's minds. You can still launch the project. People can still support the project. People can still promote the project. The project can still do well. But it should be expected that some people are going to have their position that they do because of the history here. But in addition to that, I don't think it's a good idea to just dogpile on people every single day, day after day. Say your piece. If you have to say your piece again and again a couple times to get it out, but at some point, I do think it's worth moving the conversation elsewhere. That's just my opinion. Again, I don't speak for everybody. People, if that's what you decide to do, if you want to dogpile every day, that's your business. But I want to see everything work out for every single normal person. It's like the cards are stacked against normies in this environment, and that's only going to continue from here on out. And so I want to see things work out for every single normal person who's just trying to make it. All right, including Scott. But this was too much in too short of a time period for a lot of people. And I think that's reasonable. And I also think it's reasonable that people don't like, what they perceive to be a lot of people dogpiling on someone over and over again, right? I don't think that's good either. So those are my thoughts. I doubt this will be a popular video, but those are my thoughts for whatever it's worth. And after this, I'm moving forward back to normal content. And over time, as more people come into the space, see right now, again, the situation right now in the ICP space is a very, very temporary situation. It's very early. This tech just started being rolled out. ICP hasn't even had a bull market. And so more people will come in, more developers, more investors, more users, more projects, more influencers. And as that happens, people will start to gravitate to things and people that align with their goals, interests, and values, which is perfectly fine. That's normal. That happens in the real world every day. But just right now, we're all kind of looped into the same thing. And which makes something like this become it turns into like a group conversation because the group is so small right now. All right. But I really want to see this video in the future. And I would 100% buy it if and when the time comes. And I hope the best for Scott. And I will likely never say anything about Scott again publicly. I'm not sorry for anything that I've said. And if I do have anything to say to Scott in the future, I will just message him privately and address it with him privately. All right. So that's all I have for this video, guys. That's it. It's over. And you do whatever you want to do and, take whatever position you want to take. But that's my piece. And that's my piece. Okay. That's all I have for this video. And not financial advice. Do your own research. And I will see you in the next video.